lavish rich coming right back at you. This story right here hits different because it shows you that even at the highest level, you can lose something that you think is yours. We are talking about Patrick Beverley literally losing control of a podcast that has his name on it. And this is not just business. This is personal. Let's start with what actually happened. Pat Beverley had a show called the Pat Bev Podcast with Adam Ferrone under Barstool Sports. This was not a small project. This was a growing platform with real momentum and a real audience. The show was working. The chemistry was working. From the outside looking in, everything looked solid. But behind the scenes, something was changing. And the craziest part is how he found out. Pat Bev didn't find out from his team. He ain't find out from his co-host. He found out from Dave Portnoy. That's the first problem. Because when you build something with people, you expect them to talk to you directly. You don't expect to hear about your own situation from somebody outside of the room.
As a surprise a little bit, right? Actually shocked a little bit due to the fact that this show was the Pat Bev Pod with Ron less than 6 months ago. So I get a call, right, through this whole process, right, this whole case process, right? I haven't been able to like really post anything with Barstool, you know, just until everything was over with. Dave has done a phenomenal job being communication-wise, right, allowing me to still be with Barstool, but, you know, basically until I get my, you feel me, like, come back when you're not hot type of vibes. And I understood it. You feel me? Like, I was there when his kids got baptized, you know? So, like, excuse me if I feel some type of way, right? Not from Barstool, just from the homie. This was the Pat Bev and Ron. We got 278,000 subscribers together. We got a YouTube plaque together. You feel me? So, like, this is my dog. Like, I thought, like, you feel me? This is my dog. So I hit the group like, yo, you know, I'm back, boys. I'm ready to work. You feel me? Like, man, stuff is past, man. Y'all been holding down. I'm ready to get back to work. Ron reached out to me, man. I know you glad this is over, this. I'm like, all right. So, okay, when do we start? And then they go quiet. And I'm like, they like, have you talked to anybody? I'm like, talk to anybody? Like, I talked to Dave. Dave say, have I talked to y'all? I talked to y'all. Y'all tell me, have I talked to somebody else? So me and Dave get on the phone. And Dave, shout out to Dave too, man. Solid dude since day one. Like from him finding me into where I am right now, media-wise, he's been a phenomenal, right? I talked to Dave, and Dave hit me like, yeah, the guys wanted me to reach out and tell you that, you know, they want to keep going how the pod is now. You know, you've been gone for 3 months, and they want to, you know, just keep that going right now. And I'm like, what guys? Like, what guys are you talking about? Like, he's like, the guys from the pod. And I'm like, why are you telling me this? Like, why hasn't, you feel me? I'm talking about producers. Like, I'm talking about I got people who produce the show currently. I had them sleeping on my couch in my house, bought them beds, have my chef cook them meals. Like, I still ain't heard from them. Like, excuse me if I feel some type of way, y'all. Excuse me. And y'all let me know if I'm wrong. You feel me? I'm wrong a lot. But I'm a real dude. So y'all let me know if I'm wrong or not for feeling this type of way. I say, Dave, why are you telling me this? Like, why ain't nobody from the pod, like, telling me this? Yeah, they told me to reach out to you, right? And I'm like, okay, so it was told to me, right? Even though we have a contract, right? I don't know if you feel me. If I didn't like a teammate, I just couldn't stop working with the teammate because I didn't like the teammate. Again, that's not how it works contractual wise.
Now, when you come back from that video, you can feel exactly what he was feeling. That was not just confusion. That's a man trying to process how he got cut out without a conversation. He talked about having these people in his home. He talked about feeding them and treating them like family. And then when the business shifted, nobody said nothing to him. This is not just a business move. This is a break in trust. And a lot of people can relate to that part right there. Because this is really not about podcasting. This is about thinking you building with people who see you one way and then finding out they see you a completely different way. Now let's talk about the business side. Just because your name is on something don't mean you own it. And that is a hard lesson. Most people think if your voice and your face is on it, then it belongs to you. But in reality, it belongs to whoever owns the paperwork. Pat Beverley built the image of the show, but he did not control the platform the show was on. And that distinction is everything. Because if you do not own the platform, you do not control the decisions. And if you don't control the decisions, you can be removed at any time, even from something with your name on it. Now, let's take a look at Barstool for a second. Their business model is built around personalities. They build shows around talent, but they keep control of the system. So even if you become the face of the show, you are still operating inside their structure. And when that structure decides to move different, you do not have the final say. And that is exactly what happened here. Now, let's talk about Adam Ferrone, because this is where friendship and business collide. On camera, it looked like a partnership. Off camera, it turned into a business decision. And that's what really hurt Pat, because it's not just that he was removed. No call, no warning, no conversation, just silence until somebody else told him what was happening. And that's the type of move that changes how you see people, because now you have to ask a real question. Was this ever a partnership, or was I just a part of somebody else's business? And that question hit different when you realize how much you put into it. Time, energy, loyalty, and none of that guarantees you control. And that's the lesson in all of this. Ownership is everything. Because if you don't own it, you can lose it. And that is exactly what we just watched happen. And we know these type of situations don't happen overnight. This was built into the contract from day one. And most people do not realize it until it's too late. When you sign with a company like Barstool Sports, you are not just creating content. You are entering into a business agreement that defines who owns what. And that agreement does not care about your feelings. It cares about control of the brand, control of the content, and control of the distribution. And if you do not own those three things, you do not own the show. You are just the face of it. And that's the part that catches people, because the audience thinks the face is the owner. But that paperwork could tell a different story. Now, let's talk about how people get frozen out. It don't always come with a big announcement. It doesn't always come with a confrontation. Most of the time, it comes with silence. Less communication, less involvement, less information, until one day you realize, I'm not in the loop no more. And by the time you realize it, the decision has already been made. That is what it looks like to be phased out. And that's why Patrick Beverley found out the way he did. Not through a meeting, but through somebody outside of the situation. Because once they decide to move on, they don't always feel obligated to explain it to you. And that's cold, but that's business. Now here's the part that people need to hear clear. Loyalty does not override contracts. You can house people, you can feed people, you can treat people like family. But if that contract says they control the platform, they control the outcome. And that's the truth. Because most people mix relationships with business. And business don't always return the same energy. You might be moving with your heart, and they might be moving with strategy. And when those two things collide, strategy usually wins. Now, let's talk about the creator's lesson in this. If you are building something, you need to ask yourself three questions. Do I own the name? Do I own the content? Do I own the platform? If the answer is no to any of those questions, you are at risk. And that risk does not show up in the beginning. It shows up when the business decides to change direction. And that is exactly what we just saw. A successful show, a recognizable name, a strong personality, and none of that guaranteed control, because control was never in his hands. And that's why this story is so important, not because of the drama, but because of the lesson. This is what happens when you build on something you don't own. You can help it grow, you can help it succeed, but you cannot always decide what happens to it. And that's a different type of loss. That's not just losing a platform. That's losing something you thought was yours. And that's why you can hear the shock in his voice, because it was not supposed to end like this. But in business, things don't always end based on your expectations. They end based on agreement. And if the agreement is not in your favor, then the ending won't be either. So the final message is simple. Build what you can control, own what you can protect, and never confuse access with ownership, because access can be taken away and ownership has to be given up. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe. Establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.